This has St. Louis Blues fans absolutely buzzing as a top 100 prospects article has dropped and the Blues have multiple players in this list, and it shows how bright the future of St. Louis is. And we're going to break down all these prospects, what you need to know about them, and just why Blues fans should be fired up at this and more in this episode. You're not going to want to miss it. So, Darius, let's just hop straight into it today, where we did see Scott Wheeler dropped his annual a top 100 NHL prospect rankings across the league. It's going to be linked down in the description. A great read, and he does a summary on every single player. Now, we did cover some players yesterday. We had Carbonneau, we had Snuggerud, but going in, the St. Louis Blues have even more players. Coming in at number 38, Dvorský. Now with Dvorský, we've talked about him quite a bit. He looks poised to join this Blues team within the next year to 2 years. What is your initial thoughts of seeing him ranked in the top 40?
I mean, this is great company. We just talked about two other players that were ranked a little bit higher, but one of them has NHL experience. The other one was just drafted. And this is a player that has slowly been making his way up, the ladder in the Blues organization. Obviously, we've talked a lot on the channel about how good he was in the OHL, and everybody knows that, but he's a lot closer to making the team than I think a lot of people realize. And I think Blues fans do realize that, but I think from the outside looking in, a lot of people don't understand, how close he is to making the NHL and making an impact at the NHL level. If you look at what he did last season in the AHL, 45 points. He was almost a point a game player. So that to me tells me you don't have to be a superstar at the AHL level. You don't have to be like a 2 point a game player at the AHL level to tell us that you're going to be a great player at the NHL level. This guy, I think, is ready, and he's knocking on the door. And I just don't know if Doug Armstrong is going to answer it this season or heading into this season quite yet. I feel like we could definitely see him in the NHL this year, especially if there's some injuries, although Doug Armstrong has done a really good job at shoring up a lot of depth as well. So there'd have to be quite a few injuries, but I think they're going to see what he does in training camp. They're going to make it difficult for him to make the team with all the depth that they have, and maybe they make some PTO signings. A lot of people and a lot of teams do that around the league, around training camp. So I wonder if they, purposefully make it difficult for him to make the team to see what he's able to do with that opportunity. But he's a lot closer than people realize. He will be on this team probably next season as a full-time NHLer, but they did a really good job at shoring up the depth. And this is just another example of this is a young guy that can come in and make a difference. I'm very high on this player. I think he's going to be a great NHLer. And the other question is, does he start on the wing or at center? Because he can play center. But if he's coming into the Blues, you have great center depth. So again, unless there's an injury, I do wonder if he starts on the wing. But great company that he's with, and he's top 40, like you said, in a list of the top 100 league-wide. And the Blues have multiple players, and he's fantastic.
I mean, looking at him at every level, we've seen in the World Juniors being probably the biggest piece and the only bright spots for Slovakia. And I don't want to hate on any of the players. We've seen how good he was in the OHL, being dominant in the AHL. Everything's pointing towards Dvorský joining this team very soon. It's probably going to be a wing. It's easier for someone to translate into the top level of the NHL at wing. You can slide into the center position even in 2 years if Suter stays on this team or is off after that. But Dvorský is just a part of the list. We know there's so many guys. We've already went through Snuggerud. We've seen Carbonneau. We've seen Dvorský. And it doesn't stop there, where Logan Mailloux comes in at number 70. Now, there's still one more name, so it's not just the 4 names. But going into Mailloux, we know acquired in the Bodique trade. And this is a trade that had a lot of fans maybe not too happy, moving out a fan favorite to bring in Mailloux. But I think there's a lot of value. Now, we talked to Josh Goss from Habs Digest. We did an episode with them as well. But Mailloux is a name that's very interesting. He looks like the perfect guy to come in and run a power play. We know he's physical. He'll get into the dirty areas. What is your thoughts on this trade? You move out a guy that scored 19 goals, but you get a top 100 prospect in return.
Yeah, and he's a big player too, right? He does have a physical side of his game. We mentioned on the channel that he does bring it normally. Again, I'll keep bringing it up. I think I watched the worst game that this guy's ever played live, but it's a small sample size and it was a bad game, right? But other than that, he is adding different elements to his game. And Josh was kind of talking about that, how he kind of not necessarily took a step back last season, but he was adding more to his game, the defensive side, the physical aspects, all of those things, because we know what he can bring offensively, and he can run a power play, and he's done it at the AHL level. He did it at the OHL level. And I think the plan is for him to do it at the NHL level as well. Maybe not right away, but they're going to slowly start easing him into that role. And I think the biggest thing here is, yes, he's rated lower. I think it's because he's a little bit older as well, and he's been around in the Montreal Canadiens system for a couple of years at this point. But I think that he is actually ready to make the jump. And it's going to be interesting to see if he starts the year in the St. Louis Blues, on the roster. But, a lot of people are penciling him in. Obviously, you have to come to training camp and show out. So we'll see what happens with that. But I do think there's a world where they go, yeah, you're going to start on the team and you're going to get some power play time. And we want you to be that guy heading into the future, 2 years, 3 years from now. You're that number one bona fide power play quarterback. So it's going to be interesting to see what they end up doing with him this year and how he looks in training camp. But I think that the plan is, barring anything going wrong, yeah, he's going to make the team and they're going to slowly start easing him into that role. But he's a great young player. And I think he's only going to get better, but I don't know. I think at some point you've learned everything you can from the OHL and the AHL. So I think it is time to make that jump and see how he handles the pressure of playing in the NHL.
Because, I mean, we know he has the offensive production. You can see on screen now, dangling out people at the AHL level. He does need to translate straight into the NHL, but we did see him put up 4 points in 7 games with the Montreal Canadiens. They had a logjam on defense, but with the moves that we've seen the Blues make, we've seen Letty move down, it does open up room for Mailloux to step in. I mean, we've seen Doug go out to speak on it and say that he's going to have to fight for the spot, but there is a spot in training camp for him to hold the position. So it's going to get very interesting, but we're going to round this out because there is still one more name. The Blues have a lot of guys on this list, and it is Theo Lindstein. Now, Lindstein comes in ranked 91, a 6-foot defenseman coming out, playing a lot in the Swiss league, or Swedish league, sorry, putting him 9 points. But what is your initial thoughts? I know in one episode I said people compare him to Victor Hedman. I'm not talking about size, but it was about the composure, how he shuts down people. He's great on his skates. He might not be the size of Victor Hedman. He might not turn into him, but there's a lot of comps looking at their similar play style.
Him, and I've also seen Nick Lidstrom, and again, not exactly Nick Lidstrom. We're not saying that he's going to turn into either of those players, but some comparables there. You never know, he might, but there are some comparables there. Not the best offensive guy, but man, he can shut guys down. I think that's very exciting. And I was kind of talking about how, when you look towards the future on the Blues blue line, because yes, a lot of these guys are getting older. I mean, if you look 5 years into the future, Parayko, Fowler, these guys are going to be older, probably not even on the team, right? So you're going to have to usher in this new era of players. I can see a guy like this playing with them, Mailloux, because they have that yin and yang kind of situation going on. And are they moved by then? I don't know. But down the road, this would be a really, really good pairing. And again, the defense could look completely different at that point in time, but could be an interesting pairing, or just having 2 guys like that on the blue line where you have that shutdown defenseman in this guy, and then obviously Mailloux for that offense, as you can see here, right? So it's going to be interesting heading into the future, see how they continue to progress, because, a lot of teams, I think, are valuing high offensively skilled defensemen, of course, that have that high offensive upside, but not too many teams are going after the guys that are boring, for lack of a better term, right? That can shut down players and have a good defensive stick. And this is a guy that I think has that. And a lot of these skills can translate to the NHL level. So I want to see how he progresses. He's having some great seasons. So I think he's going to be an exciting player in terms of, this is a guy that you can win another championship with.
And I mean, I think the biggest thing is a lot of people might look at defensemen and say, hey, he hasn't been flashy. We haven't noticed him. But when you're not noticing the defenseman, that can be a positive thing. He's not making mistakes. He's not going out to make a spinorama pass that gets picked off and scored on, whatever it might be. Not being a guy that's noticed a lot is still very good. But what's your thoughts, Blues fans? What is your thoughts on this rankings? What is your thoughts on Dvorsky coming in at 38? What's your thoughts on Logan Mailloux coming in and Theo Lindstein as the final one, ranked at 91? And we have Carbonneau and Snuggerer that we did yesterday in a video. Go check that out. Is there anyone that you think that was kind of snubbed from this list? Is someone too high, too low? Let us know down in the comments. We love reading through it. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to go and hit that subscribe button. 76% of you guys watching this is not subscribed, so make sure to go hit it. If you made it this far, why not? You enjoyed it to make it this far in the episode, so hit that subscribe button. I'm in a blender, so let's end this series. That'll be it for this episode. Make sure to hit that subscribe, and we'll be back with another episode. Take